This project is an example of grassroots land stewardship in action. The Lead King Loop is a Forest Service road located adjacent to Marble, Colorado, which houses approximately 150 year-round residents. The loop is popular with OHVers, and its popularity has been consistently rising over the last decade. Some estimate the loop may host 17,000 visitors every year. The Lead King Loop currently has no management plan to deal with the volume. Unmanaged recreation is one of the major threats to forest health, and residents of Marble and Crystal are feeling the impacts. The Lead King Loop is under the jurisdiction of Gunnison County and the Forest Service. The loop itself is the focus, but the communities and tourism-based businesses all along County Road 3 inform how visitors use the loop and help clarify its needs. As an unrestricted road, the loop is open to all user groups and is an access point to the Maroon Bells and Raggeds Wilderness. Some visitors even use it as a driveway to access private property. Many OHVs will take scenic rides around the loop. Such varying use among so many vehicles in such a rugged, isolated area creates environmental and social impacts related to crowding, safety, dust, and noise. A working group was formed to address concerns and grievances about OHV impacts, consisting of representatives from the Forest Service, Gunnison County, residents and businesses of Marble and Crystal, and Western Colorado University. An employee from the Center of Public Lands helped the working group develop a process that suited our needs, roles, and capacities so we can optimize the process. We have worked to encourage participation from stakeholders such as local environmental groups and recreation clubs as well. The history of the loop is deeply entwined with the history of the Crystal River Valley. The loop was a confluence of Ute trading trails that accessed the world-class hunting and fishing opportunities that loop users still seek out today. These trails were used by early European explorers when the mineral resources of the valley were discovered. By the 1830s, small mining claims were made throughout the valley, and the loop became a highway to transport ore. Although the presence of marble was known by this time, mining it only became economically viable after the invention of the steam engine allowed the heavy stone to be transported over the rough roads out of the valley. Motorized recreation evolved after the first OHVs became widely available in the form of military jeeps after the First and Second World Wars. Many residents of Marble can trace their roots back to these miners and recall riding with their veteran grandparents to access secret fishing spots. A piece of Marble history I find fascinating is this legend of two Ute men who were caught attempting to burn the town. Upon their arrest and removal, they were said to curse the valley so that no white man's business would become successful. I wanted to include this because I think every place needs a good legend, and this one speaks to how the land in this valley is formidable, especially in terms of its capacity for development. Some examples of businesses that did fail after a devastating avalanche or mudslide include the Ewell Mine and Quarry, the entire town of Marble, and most recently the proposed Marble ski area. The background photo shows debris from an avalanche that closed the loop last summer, and here's a human for scale. Just in case you were wondering, OHV stands for off-highway vehicle, which includes trucks, jeeps, ATVs like four-wheelers or side-by-sides, and off-road motorbikes and e-bikes. These are all frequent on the Lead King Loop. Unfortunately, some people don't realize that not all four-wheel drive vehicles have any business off-road until they've already punctured their oil pan. These also frequently appear on the loop. OHVs have exploded in popularity faster than we've been able to study their effects on the environment. OHV impacts described by residents exacerbate the increased numbers of all user groups on the loop and pose an increased threat to the environment, which is already fragile due to its inherent geologic instability. In this way, the land is highly susceptible to a cascade of damaging effects. The extra hazards of heavy machinery in town and on a mixed-use road create safety risks and potential for conflict between visitors and residents, as well as the various user types that occupy the road. Threats to personal welfare and environmental health contribute to a decreased quality of life among residents and user experience. Many residents say the loop is being loved to death, implying that a lack of regulation for so many users creates a tragedy of the commons. For this project, I began with an ethnographic observation of the area, supplemented with literature reviews of OHV recreation management in nearby areas similarly threatened by high user volume, such as Conundrum Hot Springs and Penny Hot Springs. Field surveys were used to collect data on loop users, including age, zip code, primary destination, vehicle type, and years of experience off-roading. These questions were chosen to assess user demographics to inform management decisions according to the preferred user experience of that demographic. For instance, areas that host more experienced users may have a different outdoor education initiative than a place that tends to attract users with less experience. Traffic counts were also collected on the trail to track number of users per day. An online questionnaire was sent to OHV clubs on Colorado's western slope to get an idea of preferred management strategies among avid OHVers, although most users on the loop were not part of a club. Community focus groups were hosted to gather data on community preferences, perspectives on OHV impacts, attitudes towards user groups, and how residents use the road. As many have predicted, the Crystal Mill is the main draw to the loop and Marble for all users surveyed. This chart shows the proportion of primary destinations of respondents. Loop users are local and tend to not do prior research before their visit. 62% of respondents had an 81623 zip code. Over half of respondents had visited the loop before and said they were likely to return that summer. Most users operated four-wheel drive vehicles, including highway cars with off-road capability, and respondents averaged 20 years off-roading experience. Here's a visual of the main attractions on the loop and the famed Crystal Mill. The focus groups were an opportunity to gauge community perspectives and as a platform for public participation. Many community members are deeply divided about tourism. Some fear the area will lose its identity if it gives in to tourism. There was a general sense that visitors are disrespectful through being uninformed about etiquette and land stewardship, or careless about parking, speeding, and driving under the influence. There are tensions from residents trying to live out everyday private lives where visitors feel like they're on vacation. Despite the split opinions, many want to find a balance between Marble like it used to be and the Disneyland many fear it will become. Many residents perceive motorized users as distinct from non-motorized users, although the literature, field survey, and online survey show that motorized users will often engage in non-motorized activities. The surveys and focus groups revealed some overlapping perspectives between residents and visitors. Both residents and visitors like Marble's old world character, so there's a mutual desire for ecological and cultural preservation. Many residents and visitors feel like the loop is their backyard and share concerns about the future of parking and development. The biggest priorities when considering management options are preserving the culture of the valley, focusing on education, and working within the limitations of law enforcement. Education about environmental stewardship, etiquette, and common community values are needed to mitigate for incidents that require enforcement presence. Education also parallels self-regulation as a preference and cultural practice in the Marble community and on the loop, and appeals to OHVers in general, who tend to prefer opportunities to self-regulate. Improving signage can help streamline visitors and control traffic, as well as communicate town and trail etiquette. I didn't survey for language or ethnicity, but Carbondale has a large Hispanic population, so it would be helpful to see how they design their signs. Because opinions about the presence of tourism in Marble are so deeply split, having a contingency plan for theft and vandalism of signs is needed. A Lead King Loop brand is recommended to communicate a consistent message. This branding must be informed by Marble values and culture to help guide visitor expectations and behavior. These will be explored in upcoming rounds of public input. Future research will incorporate Q method to identify a range of community perspectives to see beyond the vocal minority. Another public input session will be held to gauge their prevalence in the community, as well as discuss a desired community message and loop brand. Focus groups will also be held for general OHVers to understand their views on preferred communication modes in a community message and brand in the interest of providing a desired experience to, theoretically, promote compliance with regulations. Data on non-motorized loop users will also be gathered. A note on COVID-19 impacts. The Marble Campground and Main Informational Center, the Hub, were closed all summer to discourage visitation. So there was a little bit of revenue loss for this project through that. Data may have been skewed this year because there were an exceptional amount of new users on the trail, a trend that was recorded across the country as social distancing guidelines and increased leisure time made more people spend time outdoors. We also had a late start for data collection, and public input had to be navigated carefully due to increased tensions between residents and visitors. The final product for this project is a convening report that will act as a living document to be revisited and updated to ensure the project stays on track. The report will be a compilation of methods used in this project, results, interim strategies, and future needs, and the empirical data already known to the Forest Service. A big thank you to everyone who helped make this project great, and of course, thank you so much for listening. And I will answer any questions you may have.